Welcome back to the channel. In this week's video, we're going to be looking at a project I had for about a year now. It's been sitting in the garage. You can kind of see it in the background there. Here it is. It's a 1985 Kawasaki Bayou, 185cc, two-wheel drive ATV. Now, it's definitely a project, just putting that out there right now. I paid $100 for this thing at a farm/estate sale, and the details on it are sketchy. There's parts missing. I'm not even sure what to do with this thing. I'm not too familiar with ATVs. I never really had one. I never really had the property to have one. So this is going to be a first for me. So just a little bit of history on this thing. I got this last April, and I was told by the previous owner was that him and his son were doing a rebuild. They just essentially couldn't get it to fire. Here is a box of parts it came with. Now, you have anything from an airbox cover, the old head, more trim, pull start. There's a lot of parts in here. Some are extras, some are stuff that aren't attached to it right now. And in the time I've had it, all I tried to do was to see if it had compression, which it did. But unfortunately, the timing was off. So this is why the stator and the crankshaft pulley and the front cover here are removed. I was in the middle of just resetting the timing. Now, if anyone's ever worked on these old ATVs or any sort of old power sport, dirt bike, whatever, finding proper information or repair guides for them are very difficult. Even parts for them, let alone. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this thing. It did come with a repair manual. Now, I've looked through it a couple times, but another red flag is wiring diagrams. There's a few of them here. I don't know, maybe the previous owner was tracking an electrical issue, why it wouldn't fire, I don't know. It had a very hard crank, so that's usually an indication of timing being off, and the marks were indeed off. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it here, but what I left off on a few months ago was just resetting the timing, and I never got around to completing the job. So, parts everywhere on this thing. It's sketchy. Extra carburetor or whatnot. Batteries missing. I don't even really know if there's a value for this out there. It's one of those things I just got at the right place, right time, right price. It does have an ownership, so I would like to fix it up and maybe use it to recover vehicles in underground parking lots when I do my scrapping or whatnot. But I'm just not sure where to start with this. You can see some of the plastic is damaged. There's been some sort of repair here. It doesn't look very pretty. Usually I wouldn't buy something that's in pieces like this, but like I said, I had a hunch on it. The price was right. This is what the rear end looks like. There's some surface rust in the frame, nothing too concerning. No cracked casing, nothing like that. I know the gas tank definitely needed a flush. Even the last time it had some old fuel in it, and I never got around to flushing it yet because, well, all work has been paused on this for about a year. I always hated when buying older vehicles usually, and there's sketchy wiring, sketchy electrical tape here, you know, connections here. You don't know where this wire goes. Never a favorite of mine figuring out old wiring, especially when other people have been in it. Frame has still got some old mud and kicked up all on it. I think for someone this would make a pretty good project. Just don't know if I'm going to be that person yet, but one thing I always liked about old power sports and whatnot is just the fact of a lot of automotive styling transferred into these power sports. For example, the square headlight of the time. A lot of cars of the 80s had square headlights. There was no body curves. Everything was really boxy. I also liked the traditional graphics. They're period correct of the time. They're obviously peeling or whatnot. They've seen better days, but overall, still cool to see I'm just happy it's still together for the most part. Fortunately, the Bayou writing is healed a bit. There's been some all balls parts put on this somewhere at some point. I don't know. Being that I have a automotive parts store outside of this channel, I always found it troubling working on old junk and not being able to find the parts I need, whether it be discontinued, whether it be hard to find, expensive, whatnot. So I try my best to, whatever old vehicles I come across and chop up and whatnot, do my best to put them online and hopefully get them to the people who need the most. This ATV being a prime example of not being able to find proper parts for it. So I have dealt with a few suppliers out in Europe who do sell rare new old stock or even aftermarket parts for old Kawasaki, Yamaha, whatnot. Fortunately, it's very expensive to get those parts here with customs shipping, waiting a month or so for it to arrive. But they don't actually stock everything, you know? Just to find an air filter for this thing, it was a nightmare. Could you imagine if you're doing a whole engine rebuild? Or, you know, missing a clutch fork or something like that, and your whole build's paused or essentially came to a grinding halt because, well, you can't finish it. There's no parts out there. You're hoping someone has a part out unit that may have a decent used one, but your whole build's paused or essentially came to a grinding halt because, well, you can't finish it. There's no parts out there. You're hoping someone has a part out unit that may have a decent used one, but still, here's a perfect example right here. This, what looks to be the kill switch that someone installed. It looks like something you'd find on a garbage compactor, but I guess the guy couldn't find the original replacement or an aftermarket one. So he went to his nearest garbage compactor or industrial supply store and got one of these. It works, sure, but it looks terrible. I never noticed how much dust is actually on this thing, even though it was under a cover. Guess it's hard to tell how faded the plastic is, but there's a fine layer of dust. It's the first thing I own that has a substantial amount of dust on it. I don't know if I should be proud of that or disappointed. So you guys let me know if this is worth fixing or not, or just part it out or sell it as is. You guys let me know what you'd like to see done with this.